In this lesson, we are going to learn how to detect a device's orientation in order to improve our game's user experience. Now, the first step for this actually lends itself back to our previous lesson about making the game responsive. And it's really important to set up a viewport when you're dealing with mobile devices. So we can do this simply with HTML using a meta tag. So we'll do meta name viewport, and we'll set up some content here. We simply need user scalable equals no. We don't want them double tapping causing a zoom. Initial scale should be 1, maximum scale and minimum scale also 1. If you noticed in our previous lesson dealing with responsiveness, the Chrome emulator was actually looking for this viewport meta tag, did not find it, and caused a few unexpected differences from what we would have normally seen on a mobile device. So it is important to get this correct before you even start your testing. Okay, now with that in place, we can begin to look at device orientation. So the first thing that you want to do, just like with anything else in JavaScript, is find what event. Everything happens with events, and so we want to go ahead and set up an event listener for device orientation. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. It's orientation change. So let's go ahead and just set that up. Set up listener for device orientation change. And so simply window.add event listener, and again, orientation change. We're going to set up an orientation method. Remember to bind to this so we get the correct scope. And we've got that set up. Let's go ahead and set up our orientation method. Now, for the sake of time, I've gone ahead and already written our orientation method. I'll just pull it from over here. We'll stick it in here at the bottom of our file. And let's run through what's going on here. So, first of all, you'll notice it's wrapped in a set timeout. This is mainly for iOS. On iOS, it has a little quirk where it actually will not update the client's width and height and some other parameters until after the orientation is changed. And so if we simply put it inside of a set timeout, that will put it on the next event loop, and we will get the updated values. Now, it is true that you can use window.orientation to find out which direction the device is pointing on mobile devices. However, there's a few issues with this that we are taking care of with this approach. First of all, Android and iOS differ with how they report the window orientation, which makes it extremely tricky to use that property to determine the orientation. There's also the issue of doing testing on a desktop, as it does not provide window.orientation. So for our needs, we don't really need to know the orientation. We just want to know what the screen looks like. So we're going to grab the width and the height, same as before with document.body.client width and client height. We take these and we look to see if the width is less than the height. If the width is less than the height, we can assume that we are looking at a portrait orientation. And what we want to do at that point is end the game, and then we take our rotate background and rotate text, set those to the screen height and width, and position them correctly. So while we've got that up, let's go ahead. Again, Command P brings up this fuzzy search, and then Command R lets us search. So we're going to do setup background right there. And let's go ahead and set up our rotate background and text. And so simply we'll create rotate background, which again we are referencing here. Rotate background, new pixie.graphics. We're just going to keep this simple for our purposes here. And then also let's create rotate text, new pixie.text. We'll just say rotate. Most users will know what that is referring to on a mobile device. Okay, let's do this similar to our other text. So remember to scale it so that it will fit your screen appropriately. Okay, and let's give it our same blue color. All right, so there's our text. Let's do a little bit of positioning. Rotate text anchor.x. This positions it center and vertically as well. Okay, and then let's add the text to the background. All right. Perfect. So we've got our rotate background set up. And now when it's in portrait mode, it will create this. It will fill it with black. It will reposition the text, and then it will add it to the stage on top of everything. So that's all you will see when it's in portrait mode. If, however, it's in landscape mode, we go ahead and we remove that rotate background, and we reset the stage. We reset up our scale. Here's a method to remember: render or resize. We want to make sure and do that, or our canvas will stay at the same height and width that it was in portrait mode. And then we reset up our background and our menu. And so this all happens, again, take a look here, when the orientation changes. Okay, so we have that set up. There is one final point to look at. This is actually a limitation in our tween.js library. We currently pass in the time update. However, in Safari, including mobile Safari, this will cause things to break because of an absence of window.performance.now. That's in the current version of tween.js. This could be fixed in the future. But a simple fix is to remove that, and it will use a fallback that will work across all systems. Okay, so let's go ahead and test our system now to see how the orientation is working. So again, we'll reload, Command R. Everything looks the same. Again, we're in landscape on a desktop. Let's go ahead and open the console, Command Option J. And then let's go ahead and enter our emulator again. So let's select, let's go with an iPad 1. Just to avoid the high DPI. Okay, and let's reload it to get our new settings in place. Okay, so it's still correctly filling the screen there, and here's our rotation. We'll rotate the emulated device. Now, if you'll notice, it didn't work. Why is that? Well, unfortunately, there are some limitations currently with Chrome's emulator, and since this isn't an actual device rotating, it's not firing that event, and thus it's not updating our screen. So in this instance, in order to fully test this, we're going to need to use an actual mobile operating system emulator. Since I'm on a Mac, I'm going to go ahead and use the iOS simulator. I'm going to use trusty Alfred, which my shortcut for that is Control Space. Alfred is a fantastic launcher app for OS X. And we'll go ahead and just type Xcode, fire that up. We don't really need to use Xcode, we just need it as a way to get to the simulator. So once you've opened Xcode, go ahead and click Xcode, open Developer Tool, and then iOS Simulator. Okay, so we've got our simulator loading here with an iPhone 4S. I'm going to go ahead and scale that down just a bit so that we can try and fit it on the screen. Okay, so here's an iPhone 4S at 75% scale. We can go ahead and open Safari. We've already got ss.dev loaded in here. Again, since it's using your local computer, you can still use that handy short domain and web server. So we've got our game loaded up here. Let's go ahead and reload. So we did forget one thing. It's not checking the orientation as soon as we load in. Very simple fix for that. Let's come right back here. Once we've set up our menu, let's go ahead and check the orientation. Okay. Now, let's reload our simulator. There you go. It's telling us to rotate. Okay, so in the iOS simulator, to simulate a rotation, simply press Command and either the left or right key. And there we go. We rotated our device. The game popped up just as we would expect. We can go ahead and click play, and gameplay will begin. All right. And we can go ahead and rotate again. There we go. It continues to work as expected. So, in this lesson, we've learned how to rotate our device and have our game react to that rotation in order to improve the user experience. In the next lessons, we'll be diving deeper into mobile-specific features in order to further improve our Stone Samurai game.